Good morning, everybody. This is Colin Sebastian with Ubiquiti Networks. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. Just as a reminder, the audio for this presentation is streaming, so please turn up your computer volume, and also you'll see to the left a little media player that you can actually turn the volume up on this browser.
Good morning, everyone. It's David C., and we're going to get started here in just about 2 minutes. We still have quite a few people joining the webinar. And Jerry Yang, I know you've joined. Can you just do a quick audio check?
Hey, everybody.
You sound wonderful. Great. I still show people joining, so we'll get started here in about 60 seconds. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Unify 3.0 webinar. We still have people joining. I'm going to give them 30 seconds more, and then we'll get kicked off. Okay. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our Unify webinar. My name is David C., and I'm joined by my colleagues, Colin Sebastian, Jerry Yang, and Matt Hardy. And we're here to give you a sort of a fairly brief overview of our Unify wireless LAN platform, and then we're going to open things up for Q&A. And I'm sure that there'll be lots of questions. So feel free to use the Q&A window at the bottom of your screen, and you can ask questions, and we'll be taking those questions live. Our presentation will last about an hour, and we'll do sort of an overview of UniFi for the first maybe 25 minutes, and then the rest of the time we'll leave for question and answer. So feel free to ask away. I'm sure that, like I said, there'll be lots of spirited questions, as there have been in the past. And without too much further ado, we'll sort of get started here. So we're going to do a quick introduction to UniFi for those of you that don't know much about it yet. We're going to talk a little bit about who uses UniFi, and we have some brand new, hot off the press info that I'll be happy to share with you. We are in the process of releasing our UniFi 3.0 software platform, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the enhancements that we've made in UniFi 3.0. And then Ubiquiti announced a couple months ago our Enterprise 802.11ac access point, which is the latest in Wi-Fi technology. And that access point is actually shipping now. So we'll talk a little bit about that product and maybe give you some feedback on how some of the early users are doing with 1102AC. So first of all, let's start off with what is UniFi. And UniFi is a wireless LAN or a Wi-Fi platform targeted at enterprises. And like many enterprise wireless LAN systems, it features a centralized controller system that manages your deployment. Although in our case, our controller is a software-based controller, and we'll talk about why that's an advantage here in just a moment. UniFi is designed to provide all of the latest wireless technologies. So we have a full line of hardware access points, both indoor and outdoor. And I'll give you an overview of those access points in just a moment. UniFi is designed to scale in an almost unlimited fashion. And we have we have customers who have deployed hundreds or even thousands of access points, all under our easy-to-use software-based controller. Our hardware is enterprise-class hardware and, scales in terms of performance, capacity, and throughput, with anyone else that we might also be in this space. And what we're probably known best for is our software and how intuitive the controller software is to use and how functional it is. And we're also very well known for our disruptive pricing. And the thing that makes Ubiquiti as a company sort of unique in the market is our unique business model, which allows us to offer very disruptive pricing. Typically, our solutions cost 10% of a competing enterprise wireless LAN system. And I'll give you a sense of that in just a second. Now, today we have 4 different indoor access point models that are available. They go everywhere from our sort of simplest access point, which is the UniFi access point. And that's a 802.11b, G, and N single band 2.4 gigahertz access point. We have our UniFi long range access point, which is also a single band access point, but it has sort of a stronger radio, which allows you to have extended range. So whereas the sort of standard UniFi access point has a range of about 122 meters or 400 feet, the UAP long range has about a 600-foot range, so about 180 meters. Then we have our UniFi Access Point Pro, which is a dual band, simultaneous dual band access point. So it works at 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. That also supports 802.11a, B, G, and N. And then the newest member of the family is the 802.11ac access point, which again is a dual band access point, offers support for 802.11a, B, G, N, and the newest, AC. And the AC access point, as you can sort of see from this chart, has extremely sort of high performance at the 5 gigahertz band when connected to an 802.11ac client. and really is sort of the first technology that offers us the opportunity to replace wired infrastructure for client devices and enable you to go all wireless. Now, in addition to the indoor access points, we have two outdoor access points, the UniFi AP Outdoor and the UniFi AP Outdoor 5G. As you can probably gather from their names, these are access points that are designed to be deployed in outdoor environments. They're both single-band devices. One operates at 2.4 gigahertz, the other operates at 5 gigahertz. And all 6 of our access points are PoE enabled, so that you can use power over Ethernet from your switch to power the devices. Now, I mentioned the controller, and this is an interesting sort of point of differentiation for Ubiquiti. Our controller is software-based, and so that means you can run that controller on any kind of PC, Windows, Mac, or Linux, and you can deploy that controller on your customer premise, so CPE. You can deploy it in your private cloud if you have your own data center, or you can actually deploy the controller in a public cloud service like Amazon Web Services or anything like that. And this controller gives you a single point of administration. It allows you to do centralized configuration, discovery, upgrading. It has integrated monitoring analytics. It has a full hotspot and guest portal capabilities. So it's a full enterprise class controller just implemented in software. And potentially, best of all, that controller is included with the purchase of your access point. So in other words, there is no additional cost for the controller. There's no subscription cost. There's really no cost at all. So if you were to buy our lowest cost access point, which is the UniFi AP, and that access point, I think has a manufacturer's suggested price of $69. That $69 includes this enterprise class controller. Now, I'd love to talk just for a few minutes about who uses UniFi. And as you can imagine, it has a very broad range of uses from enterprises of all shapes and sizes, hotels, campuses, shopping malls, apartment buildings. We have customers who have done municipal Wi-Fi deployments or who have deployed UniFi in public areas like convention centers or public plazas or city parks. Lots of retail implementations. But this morning, we made a new announcement about how UniFi is being used in schools. So just for a moment, I'm going to just focus on that. So if you get a chance, you can go to ubnt.com and check out ubnt.com/education and check out how UniFi is being used in schools. And we have a number of case studies from around the globe. We also have a press release which talks about how broadly deployed UniFi is in schools, and I think you'll be pretty amazed. We've been deployed in both K through 12 and college and university school systems in over 100 countries. We are a very, very popular choice for school systems, and if you work in a school or if schools are a customer that you service, we have a couple of upcoming webinars that are specifically focused on using UniFi in a school deployment that you might be interested in. So if you get a chance, very well worth checking out. One of the case studies that we publish, and this one has both an accompanying video case study as well as a written case study, is, and I'm going to mispronounce the name, so apologies in advance, but the Universidad del Azuay in Ecuador. And this is one of the principal and premier universities in Ecuador. It has about 6,000 students, and they've deployed UniFi across the entire campus, both indoor and outdoor, to support the needs of students, faculty, administrators, and visitors. And this is a pretty high-scale deployment. They have a couple thousand concurrent users at any given point in time. As a premier university in Ecuador, as you can imagine, the student body, are all equipped with mobile devices, so they all have mobile phones and/or tablets and/or PCs, and so mobility was a critical capability for them, and they use our UniFi products to ensure that they can support campus-wide Wi-Fi, across every part of the campus. A couple of other sort of interesting examples. Here's one from Africa, from northern Mozambique, and this deployment at Iris Ministries actually reaches a very remote area. So they use a combination of our AirMax product, which enables them to receive wireless broadband to the facility, and then UniFi to take that broadband and enable wireless access across the ministry campus. Here's sort of another example of a public space. This is an architectural museum in Greece, and if you look carefully at the picture, you'll notice that you're able to see the little round access points on the walls, and this is basically to provide visitor Wi-Fi for the museum visitors, so they make extensive use of our guest access capabilities to be able to control and segregate visitor traffic from staff traffic. Here's another South American example, the Hotel Estelar. This is a 4-star business class hotel in Peru. And in their case, they had an existing wireless implementation, but it wasn't working very well. And visitors were complaining, and as many of you that travel know, Wi-Fi has become a must-have capability for hotels, and it's actually a reason for customers to either choose a particular hotel or avoid a particular hotel. And so in this case, the hotel upgraded their facilities using just about 80 UniFi access points, and they've eliminated all the complaints about their Wi-Fi capabilities and have extended the Wi-Fi into their little convention area or conference area. So it's made a big difference in hotel guest satisfaction. And then just two more quick examples. This one's sort of an interesting one. It's the Royal Military Academy in London. And this one, again, is a fairly large deployment, about 350 access points across the military academy. This one services about 1,200 very heavy users, so they're transferring about a terabyte a day of traffic. And then finally, this is more of an outdoor example, but this is a small city in Italy, Cesena, and they've deployed over 1,000 access points to provide municipal Wi-Fi. So basically, they have outdoor hotspots across the entire city. This is on the coast, so they have a beach area. And if you visit Cesena, you're able to basically use Wi-Fi anywhere in any public area in the city through their municipal Wi-Fi deployment. The UniFi product has done incredibly well. Obviously, these customer examples are just a few of the many, many deployments. And in fact, UniFi was ranked by Gartner Research as the fastest growing wireless LAN provider in the world in 2012. And they just published their market share statistics for the first calendar quarter of 2013. And we've retained our status as the fastest growing provider, and in fact have gained and are now the 4th largest supplier in the market by unit share. So we've had very, very rapid growth over the last couple of years, and we've only this solution's really only been in the market for just about 2 years. So UniFi was initially introduced in 2011, and we really focused on our controller architecture and the ease of use of the software and sort of basic wireless networking capabilities like VLANs and QoS, etc. In 2012, we introduced version 2, which really focused on hotspot and guest access. So we have a very full-featured capability for guest access, including billing support, vouchers. I met a customer the other day that actually deployed UniFi in his house and he issued vouchers to his daughter to limit her internet access. I don't know how successful that was, but I thought that was sort of funny. And then this past spring, we introduced UniFi 3. And UniFi 3 was really focused on two things, mobility and seamless roaming, and on scalability. And so we've introduced a number of important new capabilities like multi-site management and our unique zero handoff roaming capabilities. And what we'll do now is go through a brief overview of UniFi 3, and I'm going to ask my colleague Jerry Yang to help chime in here and provide a little bit of color commentary. So one of the important capabilities in UniFi 3 is called multi-site management. And this is a great option for people who are either managed service providers, who are managing multiple separate deployments, or who need multi-tenancy, or if you have a number of different physical locations. So maybe you're a chain of restaurants or hotels and you need multi-site capabilities. Jerry, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the capabilities in multi-site management?
Sure. So for the version 3, the multi-site, we really aim to separate each site. So for people running single site or for people running multi-site, they will have the single user experience. So they will be still very familiar with the management and all the aspects. And in addition to that, we also have a read-only admin. So right now you can have your if you are a managed service provider, now you can actually have your customer being able to access the same UI, access all the same information that you can see, but they cannot change anything.
Excellent. And the other sort of, I think, really key capability in UniFi 3 is called zero handoff roaming. And this is designed to solve an increasingly frequent challenge, which is mobile users on a mobile cell phone or on a tablet device who are roaming across campus and who are moving between the coverage zones of two different access points. And in that case, what zero handoff roaming does is it basically enables the connection from the client device, the mobile device, to the access point to be seamlessly handed off between access points as you move between coverage zones. Jerry, you want to talk a little bit about zero handoff roaming and why it's so valuable?
So traditionally, the roaming is achieved by essentially the client makes the decision about where to connect. So traditionally, the roaming will require some kind of interaction between the AP and the client, so the client can do the right thing. But right now, the zero handoff basically take the client decision off the picture. The AP will determine which AP should be serving the client. And from the client's perspective, there's only one AP. Wherever you go, there's only one AP. It looks all the same. So the client, they will be totally similar. There's no forward handshake when you're doing the PSK. There's no additional overhead for the PMK kind of transmit. So that will save a lot of time. Also, that will be more similar than the traditional roaming.
Excellent. Great. Another sort of critical improvement in UniFi 3 is our analytics and reporting. And this has been particularly useful, not only to understand traffic patterns, but a lot of our users use it for sort of troubleshooting. And I know that some of our education users have used it to look at sort of either excessive usage or people, using, people like using it for sort of renegade users or whatnot. Jerry, can you talk a little bit about sort of how our analytics and reporting and the kinds of things it does?
So UniFi actually collect a wealth of information. Especially when you deep into it, you will see, which client, how many, actually, in the database, there's even more information than what you are seeing in the UI. So the reason being that we believe those information are useful So for each client, we know how many times the client roamed, how many traffic was transmitted for that specific session, and we're to keep all the history of that. So even though it's not exposed in the UI, but we believe in sometime down the road we will be able to expose that. And from version 2 to version 3, that we actually started to do that. That's why we introduced the Insight tab, where you can do a little bit data mining through the data that you have.
Excellent. Great. And then we've also added a bunch of other sort of interesting capabilities that have been very requested by a lot of our users. And for those of you that are new to Ubiquiti or fairly new, we have a very dynamic and robust community, which you can access, online community, which you can access at community.ubnt.com. And in our community, we have forums where guys like Jerry and Matt participate and answer questions and get feedback from customers. There's also a very extensive knowledge base and sort of FAQ system. And there's video tutorials and blogs, so lots and lots of resources to help you learn more about UniFi. And then through the forum, you can actually talk to other users and trade best practices and troubleshooting advice and whatnot. And the reason I mention this here is that a number of these features were originally suggested in the forum. So if you're a current user and you've got feature requests, the community forum is a great place to make your feature requests known and solicit input from other users. So Jerry, do you want to just do a quick update on sort of some of these other features, WLAN groups, Rogue AP, and SNMP?
Sure. So the WLAN group is there were people suggesting using the AP group. They want to group AP together to deploy different WLANs into it. And we kind of take the other approach using the WLAN group, which also makes the zero handoff configuration very easy, because we can enforce some of the constraints to the WLAN group, which will be deployed to a radio on the AP. And for the rogue access point, we hear a lot of the requirements from the community, and we aim to provide that in the UI. Also, the SNMP, even though we don't implement the full SNMP support to expose all the wireless statistics, but we do provide the basic functionalities. So, and we will use that to solicit other feedback from the community and see, because there's also other ways. The UniFi provides an API where you can actually query all the information from the UniFi in a more native and actually easier way, actually do action against it. So that's why we kind of balance the effort between the SNMP and also the API. And that's what other features we have. And in a high level, so one thing that's special about Ubiquiti is that we actually have developers watching the community, so we actually directly interact with the customers, and that's the actual engineer and actual architect interacting with the customer, where we will get better information and we will do a proper implementation.
Okay, great. And did you talk for just a sec about sort of the load balancing?
Sure. So sometimes the AP can be overloaded, or when you have more dense deployment, you actually want the client to be averaged out. So in the version 2, we have a controller assisted kind of load balancing, where the controller say, okay, this AP has more clients, we'll kick some off, so it goes to the other one. But in the version 3, this will be more autonomous. So it will be the AP that's making the decision to try to keep the load, keep AP in a more balanced way.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I just want to spend maybe a minute talking about our latest and greatest access point, the 802.11ac AP. This was actually the very first enterprise 802.11 access point to be both announced and shipped, and these are available now. They have terrific performance and can do up to 1.3 gigabits per second at 5 gigahertz in aggregate throughput. It's a 3x3 device. It has PoE capabilities, and this access point has a MSRP of $299. So in most cases, our most capable access point is priced about the same as most of our competitors' most basic access point. And again, all of our APs include the terrific UniFi controller. And for those of you that are curious about performance, we've actually done some real-world performance benchmarking with the Tolly group, and we compared the UniFi 802.11ac access point with the existing access points from a number of our competitors, and found a significant performance gain, about 46% when you were using an 802.11ac client. But interestingly enough, even an existing 802.11n client performed about 10% faster. So this performance test sort of white paper is available on the Ubiquiti website. Just go to ubnt.com, click on UniFi, and you'll see there's a link to download this Tolly Group report. And it's, again, also completely free. You don't even have to sign up. You can just download the report and read it at your convenience. So I noticed that we have a whole bunch of questions firing in. So I think we'll finish off with our overview here and just move to the Q&A. So Jerry, I'm going to start off with a softball question for you. And is 802.11ac backwards compatible with 802.11n?
Yes.
Okay, that was an easy one. So yeah, there's full backwards compatibility. Great. Let's see here. There's a question about how many users can the 802.11ac access point support. So what's the sort of capacity?
So we decided that more than 100 per radio.
Okay, so that's great. Let's see here. Here, there's a whole bunch of questions about the version 3 software. So one question is, can the old UAP, so can an existing UniFi AP be upgraded to version 3?
Yes. Yes, right now all the USB, including the Pico M2, can the unified Pico M2 can be upgraded to version 3.
Great. And we have a whole bunch of, I'm guessing, sort of existing users who are curious about sort of the status of version 3. So can you talk for a minute about sort of our different release levels, and then talk about specifically, kind of what's happening with version 3 versus 2.1.4.
Yeah, sure. So we understand that there are a lot of existing customers and existing deployment. So what they need is probably not a lot of features. So they will need a stable release. So that's why we will be keep maintaining the 2.4 and version 2 on the track. So that's what we call kind of stable release. And at the same time, we also have a beta channel, kind of beta releases, where we will throw a lot of features and kind of like cutting edge stuff into the build. And we also have somewhere in the middle a rapid release channel where it will be more soaked. It will be closer to beta or anywhere, but we will try to make sure that's a more solid release for some people who don't want to get a cutting edge, but they want somebody else to try the cutting edge. But they still want some of the features. So that's why we kind of have the rapid channel this is actually according to we are copying the Google's model. So right now, the version 2, as you can see, version 2.4 also includes the 11AC support, UAP-AC support. And right now, the firmware is the same as the version 3, as we are still picking up the features on the version 3. And for people, the firmware on the UAP will be a totally different story. In the version 2 and the version 3, it's dramatically different. So version 3 will, as you can see, have a lot more features. It has zero handoff, better load balancing. It works with version 3 controller, but it doesn't have the stability for the version 2. So right now, in terms of the status, so we do recognize some of the issues in the new driver, as I just mentioned, and we have been working on those for quite a while, and thanks to a lot of community members that help us to look at their environment, and so we can reproduce it here and fix it. So the plan right now, we are looking at to releasing a 3.1.4 basically update in a matter of days. So I think we've nailed many of the firmware issues on the version 3. And the stable release, we are shooting at the end of September, basically the end of Q3. That's what we are looking at. But again, it will be ready when it is ready. We are not going to risk our reputation to kind of push or release into the stable if it is not.
Great. So just to sort of summarize, because I know this is sort of a big question for everybody, we're supporting 2 releases right now. The 2.4 release, which is the stable release, and it has sort of the most time in the wild, if you will. And so, we're very comfortable and confident about its stability. And then version 3, which has now been sort of out in the wild for a number of months, has a broader feature set, but just hasn't been sort of baked in the customer sites for quite as long. And so our goal is to make that the sort of default stable release by the end of September. But I will say that many customers are running version 3 in production. It's really a question about your willingness to, your desire to access some of these new features versus the potential that there may be some bugs still in the product depending on your deployment. And it's pretty easy to try it out. So a lot of people have done that, and many of them have basically started to run version 3 in production. Okay, let's see here. This is sort of a hardware question, Jerry. Does our access point work with like a Cisco Catalyst switch with PoE without having to use any converters or additional parts?
Currently, the UAP still require either the instant PoE connector, but for the UAP AC or UAP Pro, they will run on standard L2.3AF PoE. Okay,
great. So Pro and AC will work sort of out of the box with no PoE adapter, but the UAP and UAP LR would require a PoE adapter, which comes in the box with our product.
Or you can always use the top switch.
Or you can use a Cisco top switch, which, by the way, is a terrific little product. Okay, let's see here. I'm just trying to pick another question. Oh, okay. So here's another frequent question I've seen a number of people ask. It's 2 parts. So part number 1, does UniFi version 3 support a mix of APs in the same deployment? In other words, can I have a UAP, a UAP Pro, and a UAP AC in the same deployment?
The answer is yes. Of course, it's yes. And not only that, we also strive to make the management experience better. So no matter how many how many APs that you have and how many models of AP that you have, the management experience will be the same.
Great. So so you can manage your entire deployment through the one controller, no matter which devices you have, and you get the sort of same great experience for discovery, upgrading, configuration, management, and reporting, regardless of which access point or mix of access points you've decided to use. Okay, now here's the second part of the question, which is, can you have N and AC clients using a 802.11 AC access point? So if you have a mix of clients, so if you have a mix of client devices, will they work okay on an 802.11 AC access point?
Yes, that's actually exactly what's happening in our office right now.
Okay, that's great. That's true. We use this ourselves, of course, and we have some people who have 802.11 AC devices, and the rest of us have 802.11n devices, and it works just fine. Okay, here's a question that's sort of about multi-site management. It says, can you have two separate buildings connected to the same Wi-Fi network, or would there need to be two networks monitored separately?
I think that really depends. For two buildings like a motel, if some people just do a one sublink, and actually, of course, just two buildings, they are going to be on the same subnet. But if there are two like office buildings, you might have some other deployment. So there might be different subnet, even multiple subnet in one single building.
Exactly. So that really is more of an implementation question, right? And you can either have two separate networks but manage them through our multi-site management in one controller, or you could have them be on the same network and join them together if you wanted. Okay, let's see here. Here's an interesting deployment question. How would you determine the spacing between access points? Since I'm using Wi-Fi for a heat map, will version 3 do heat mapping?
Version 3 does the same heat mapping in version 2. But right now, that's all the estimation. For the deployment, I always suggest customers to actually put a few APs and do a little bit site survey and see whether there's a dead spot and how the signal actually penetrate through the wall, because each building is slightly different. There's no single simulation software that can do it for you. You actually have to go on the site and actually test it out and determine how many APs. Of course, there's some rough criteria you can always use.
Okay, thank you. See, here's one actually I think I can take. The question is, do you have an upgrade program? So we have right now, in fact, I think today and tomorrow are the last 2 days. We have a competitive upgrade program. So if you are using an Aruba or Ruckus access point, you can sign up through our upgrade program, and we'll send you an 802.11 AC access point to try out. But that program expires at the end of July, so you've got basically today and tomorrow to sign up for that, and you can find that at ubnt.com/unify. Okay, let's see here. Here's an interesting question. It says, I use a couple of different computers in my office, and I understand that the controller can reside on only one computer at a time. Will I be able to manage my APs from more than one computer in the future?
Yeah, of course. The controller has a web-based interface, so you only have to have the controller run somewhere, and so you know the IP address, or you can open a web browser to manage your APs from pretty much anywhere. And as a matter of fact, we have many of our employees, their home, the UniFi APs in their home, they are all managed through a UniFi controller in the cloud, where we basically host it on the Amazon.
Great. And there have been a couple questions about sort of hotspot capabilities in version 3. Do you want to talk a little bit about our sort of hotspot and guest access capabilities?
Yes. So in the hotspot, in the version 3, of course, we the multiple site capability also works for the hotspot. I think that's one thing. And we also started to integrate more payment gateways. Before we only have like PayPal Pro, which is only valid in the U.S., U.K., and Canada. And right now we are introducing a lot more payment gateways who will be available for Australia, for Europe, and we are looking at somewhere for South America as well. I think those are the additionals. And other than that, the hotspot feature is pretty much all familiar, that you can have all the directory access, make any fancy pages that you wanted with a very traditional HTML syntax. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Let's see here. There's a question about running our controller in Amazon Web Services, and basically says, what tier of service does your controller require? And Matt, feel free to chime in here, but I believe that we just need the basic level of service. Our controller is not particularly hardware configuration sensitive. On top of that, just a quick plug that there's a great video tutorial on how to set up your controller in Amazon Web Services.
Yeah, it doesn't really require anything hardware intensive. Just the micro instance is enough to get you started. I think plenty of users use the micro instance, and if you need a lot of devices to be managed, maybe go up to a medium instance. But it definitely doesn't require a lot of resources.
Okay, and since I got you, Matt, maybe you can help answer this one, or somewhere between you and Jerry. This says, I want to use my controller on L3 on level 3 on my non-Amazon cloud server. How do I install my trusted certificate on my controller server?
I think we have information on that in our knowledge base, I believe. But Jerry, maybe you can add more information on that. I think you just add the certificate in the Tomcat web server. I think there's a how-to on our community.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, I think the knowledge base is bad. But try that. If the information is not enough, just post it on the forum and we'll improve it. It should be pretty straightforward.
Okay. So here's a load balancing question, Jerry. Do the enhancements in version 3 regarding load balancing apply to clients connecting to access points with 5 gig and 2 gig radios? Or in other words, will a room full of dual band devices such as iPads better connect to both the 2 gig and 5 gig radios?
So right now the load balancing is per radio, as it ties to a wireless LAN group. So you can have, say, limit only like 20 clients on a 2 gig and probably 3 clients on 5 gig. That's something that you can do. But in terms of if the questions regarding the band steering, we are not doing that yet.
Okay, great. And here's another Amazon question. If you run the controller in the Amazon Web Service, can you support clients from Europe and more specifically Greece? I think the answer to that's yes.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem as long as the clients have IP access to the controller. It would work fine no matter where the geographic location of those access points are.
Okay, great. And then, Jerry, what kind of fault tolerance is available with the controller? In other words, can you run one controller at your headquarters and one at some kind of disaster recovery site?
Currently, we do not have that. But keep in mind, the controller is designed not to be the bottleneck. In the sense that when the controller is down, even for the maintenance, the AP will be functioning still autonomously. I think that's kind of our design goal. So for load balancing, for your wireless uplink, for your zero handoff, it's all designed around that philosophy. And in terms of the kind of your standby or your backup, the controller is actually very easy to do a backup and restore. So you can have multiple backup in your possession, and if something goes wrong, you should be able to easily recover that.
Great. Here's an interesting question. Are there any plans for Facebook integration?
Could you repeat that?
Oh, are there any plans for Facebook integration? I think this is like logging in via Facebook, or supporting Facebook in the hotspot, in the guest access.
Yeah, I actually see a few comments on that, and I actually see like the announcements from our competitors. Yeah, we are definitely looking at that.
Okay, so another actually good plug for our forum, because I know there's actually right now a pretty good thread discussing the pros and cons of doing Facebook integration in the product. So great opportunity for you to join the community and add your voice to the discussion. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Sorry. Is it possible to customize the vouchers for guest access?
In the version 3, yes. So there's actually a FAQ in the community. You can look it up. So it talks about how to create your own kind of style sheet and how you can customize your voucher.
Okay. Great. Here's another interesting question. Can we get a mobile app to access the controller?
Currently, no, but you can use the browser. But that's something we are looking at as well.
Okay, so that one definitely would be a stay tuned. I think we're very interested in making sure that all of our products will work on mobile devices. Okay, let's see here. There's a question here about if the controller isn't running, do the AP stop broadcasting?
When the controller stops running and...
Yeah, so if you're not running the controller, will your AP still work?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, so our controller is not a full-time dedicated device. So if your controller is not running, your access points will continue to work. Zero handoff roaming will continue to work. All of those features will continue to work, right?
Yeah, it's probably except the guest portal. When you have guest portal enabled, actually the controller is the web server or the guest portal.
Okay, great. Okay, let's see here. Can we integrate UniFi with hotel management software for automatic hotspot function? So how would you integrate UniFi with a hotel management system if you wanted?
I think that really depends on what level of integration that you are talking about. So there's an API. So in the controller, you can actually tell the controller, well, I want to authorize this MAC address for X amount of time, and also to limit the download speed to like 5 megabits per second, download speed, or the upload speed to like 1 megabit per second. That can also be done in the API. So I think that's probably one way to integrate the so-called the hotel kind of management system and the UniFi.
Okay, great. Let's see here. Can a UniFi controller reach an access point if they sit behind NAT?
So the management model is very straightforward. The AP needs to be able to talk to the controller. The AP will initiate the management connection to the controller. So it's all a phone home kind of approach. So if the device is behind the net, so either we have a few ways for L3 management to occur. One is by DHCP options, and one is through DNS. Of course, you can also use the UniFi discovery app in the local subnet and tell those APs in local subnet to find the controller. But to initiate a connection from the controller to the device, there's no such thing because there's a net device in between. We do not kind of penetrate the firewall in any way.
Okay. And there have been a couple questions about Radius. So can we integrate with Radius servers?
Yes. The L2.1x EAP, the Unify controller doesn't terminate the radio communication, so you will have you still have your own radio server, and we will pass through all the authentication traffic.
Okay, great. Let's see here. This is like a complicated question, but I'll throw it out to you and Matt. Can I remotely readopt an access point to a different controller DNS name from an L3 controller, from a level 3 controller?
That's actually quite tricky. If you have, usually that's what I would do. I would, assuming I have SSH connection to those local subnets, I will actually SSH into it, reset that to factory default, and use the SCOI to set info to the new controller and adopt it from there. So of course, I can also forget it from the current controller. That's what I would do. But I think that really depends on why the access point needs to be managed by the different controller and how the topology is laid out.
Okay. Great. Let's see here. Let's see. There have been a couple questions about sort of how load balancing works. Do you want to maybe go into a little bit more detail about when you would use load balancing versus, like zero handoff roaming, for example, and what the difference would be?
So in the current load balancing, the approach is very simple. We try to make sure the processing is easy on the AP side. So currently the criteria is very simple. We want to make sure only the number, say you limit at 30 clients for your 2 gig, and that's what we will do. We'll make sure the number of clients doesn't exceed based on certain scenario, based on certain parameters. And for the zero handoff, the story is a bit different. The zero handoff actually takes care of everything. So it's going to balance the client, it's going to make sure the best AP serving the client is going to do everything. It's going to override whatever load balancing scenario you have.
Okay, great. And then there have been a couple questions about sort of how our wired uplink works. So do you maybe want to spend just a minute talking about the wired uplink feature?
So the wired uplink, we have a very easy way to configure the wired uplink. So you do not have to. You can actually dynamically change your uplink to find the best uplink, and it will stay there. And in the version 3, we also introduced actually a better uplink. The kind of was just a different way to implement it. So all the aggregation, the level A aggregation will work, and the traffic should be pretty. The speed should be pretty good. And it's pretty much a WDS implementation underneath. Of course, it's encrypted. All the traffic is encrypted, and all the VLAN traffic should be passed through. Just everything that you expect from the wireless uplink.
Okay, great. So let's see here. I think we've got time for maybe one or two more questions. Matt, I'm going to actually. I got a couple good questions for you since Jerry's been busy answering questions here.
All right.
Talk a little bit about how we provide support. So is it yearly or on a needed basis? How does our support work?
For UniFi, the support is there's no contract, there's no payment required. We offer free support, and right now the best method is to email support@ubiquiti.com, and you should receive a quick response. We are looking to add alternate methods to that, which we'll talk about more later. But right now, the easiest way is support@ubiquiti.com, and you should receive a very quick response from one of our engineers. So that's how it works now.
Okay.
And then, of course, the community. If you want to go to the community, we have thousands of users online at any time that could help with deployment questions. How do I best architect this network and things like that?
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and just another quick plug for our community. If you haven't visited, you definitely should check it out. There are, again, a knowledge base and tutorial articles and video tutorials, and it's a great way to get up to speed. And then also, meet with other members of our community to trade best practices, troubleshooting, advice, etc. And then talk to guys like Jerry to suggest new capabilities that you want to see in the product. And we all spend a lot of time in the forum, so it's a great way to interact with us and make sure that we know what's on your mind. Okay, well, I know that we're at the top of the hour, so I want to thank you all. So thanks to my fellow presenters, Jerry, Matt, and Colin. And a great thank you to all of you who joined us and for your spirited questions. It looks to me like I think we set a record for most questions asked in a 1-hour webinar. So thank you for all your time and attention. And for those of you that are curious, there will be a recording of this webinar available, and we'll send out an email with the link to the recording in the next day or two. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.